Okay, we're carrying on with marriage systems, family types, etc. So in the last lecture, I talked about residence patterns, postmarital residence patterns. So rules that state where a couple should live after marriage result in different types of family structures. In the United States, when we have our neo-local residence pattern, the family that is formed as a result of that move to establish a new household is the nuclear family, which consists of a husband, wife, and children. That should be fairly familiar to you. A husband, wife, and the children live together until the kids marry or become seen as adults and establish their own nuclear families, nuclear households. The nuclear family is an independent unit that operates independently in economic affairs, in raising children, and in other parts of life. But by far, the most common type of family around the world is the extended family, where two or more nuclear families live together. Examples of this are patrilocal, matrilocal, and avunculocal residence arrangements that I discussed in the last lecture. Also, polygamous family systems where there are multiple spouses and multiple families living together because of the marriage arrangement. So in a polygynous household, such as in the Gwembe Valley, there are multiple wives and each wife has her children. That's the wife and those children form a core family unit, and then the multiple wives and the husband and all of those children are one giant extended family. So extended families can vary in extent. There are stem families, which are vertical, multi-generations. Parents and one married son and his wife and their kids can all live together. So this is actually something that we see with changing economic systems in the United States. When unemployment goes up, children often move in with their parents, and you'll have 3 and sometimes 4 generations living in one household. This is also very common. This is an extremely common family system, especially in the idea of postmarital residence systems where a newly married couple goes and lives with her parents or his parents. So there's a vertical family relationship in that household. A joint family, horizontal extent, is siblings, so a group of brothers, for instance, who might live together even after the parents have died. So you might, especially, for instance, in the case in Zambia, where the migrants have moved to this frontier next to the national park, brothers often move together and live in an extended family compound of brothers, especially when they first arrive. Over time, and as they gain kind of material well-being, they can separate and set up their own compounds or homesteads. But initially, the joint family homestead of a group of brothers is quite common. A question to ask in these extended family systems is, how are families and economics and politics and child socialization organized when there are several spouses? In all of these societies, there are regulations about husbands spending time with their wives equally. There's expectations about how daily life will unfold, and there's expectations about what wives will get as their own in this extended polygynous family. So, for instance, each wife among the Gwembe Tonga, each wife must have her own house and her own cooking fire. The husband must spend periods of time with each wife and eat from her pot regularly, and treat each wife equally. So when he gives a gift to one wife, he must give gifts to all of the wives. Any sign of favoritism promotes jealousy and undermines the cooperative working relationship within the household. That's why at the beginning of the book, Grains from Grass, the story about the one wife who was neglected by her husband and co-wife, and she was said to have starved to death because the husband and other wife were out in the fields eating. That is such a horrible story because it's so contrary to what the norms of the polygynous household should be. So when there are these extended families, we can look back to the residence patterns as kind of a way to understand what the family ultimately looks like and where different kinds of family systems came from. So when there's a rule of patrilocal residence, for example, the household consists of an older married couple, their married sons and wives, and the unmarried children of both of the older couple and their married sons. These all form one extended family. Their married daughters will have left the household to join the household of their husbands and those families. So what you have then is a core of related men. The center of this type of extended family, a patrilocally created extended family, is a core of related men. Their wives, who have all married into the family, come from different places and are not related to each other. The matrilocal residence system results in extended families that look quite different. In a matrilocal residence case, in a matrilocal extended family, it's a core of related women who remain together, and their husbands marry into the extended family. And with avunculocal residence, there is once again a core of men forming the basis of the extended family, but this core of men is linked through women, and this is something that you need to pay attention to with the Gwembe Tonga case specifically in terms of what matrilineal kinship systems look like in practice. A number of you have mentioned in your discussion groups that the issue of matrilineal systems perhaps giving power to women, and that you don't want to get those two ideas mixed up, that matrilineal does not mean matriarchal. In the case of the Gwembe Tonga, matrilineality actually is a form of identity, but the Gwembe Tonga have their male relationships as still dominating. It's just that the men get their identity through the women. So in avunculocal residence, the core of related men is identified through the mother's line, through the matrilineal identity, and we will be talking more about matrilineal and patrilineal. So these different kinds of family groups are based both on kinship and on common residence. In many societies, there are groups based on shared kinship, also known as descent, where members do not necessarily live in the same place. What we've been talking about so far is how postmarital residence helps to identify family. But in the case of members of a family, not necessarily living in the same place, but still holding on to identity, this is actually called clans. These groups that are based on shared kinship, but the members do not necessarily live in the same place, are called clans. So a kinship group that believes they are descended from a common ancestor who lived many years ago, many generations ago. Members of the clan believe that their common ancestor is long in the past, but they still use that common ancestor to trace their identity into the present day. Most societies that are organized on the basis of clans are exogamous. That is, people are required to marry outside of their own clan. Remember that term, exogamous. If you are required to marry outside of your clan, then an individual usually belongs to only one primary clan, either from the mother or the father. And that leads us into a discussion of descent, which will be the last lecture. I was wrong the last time.